So will you please tell us about the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? No. Oh. Today, I'm at Expression Studio in Denver, Colorado, an all-in-one studio where people can take unique dance classes, display and buy local art, and create beautiful content. I'm interviewing the co-owner and the founder of Expressions and my longtime friend, Nikla, asking her the questions that you asked about stripping and sex work.
It's not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace. Drowning by yourself, now you wanna blame me. Like you have no options. I ain't take your options.
Hi, I'm Nikla, also known as Serenity Sins on Instagram and YouTube, and I am co-owner and CEO of Expression Studio Denver. I started dancing here in Denver. I started a club called La Boheme, and then I moved over to Shotgun Willie's, and I consider that my home club. And then since then, I've travel danced and featured across the United States.
Okay, so I'm basically just gonna go through and ask you a bunch of questions that my audience has asked, and hopefully you can, if you have any answers or whatever.
Okay.
Then yeah. How did you start? Was it fun?
So I used to work at the Tilt-A-Kilt in Denver, and unfortunately they had closed down abruptly, and I had to find a job. So I really had always wanted to be a stripper, and I really needed the money at the time, but I also just really wanted to experience the stage life. That was kind of my initial goal, was because I wanted to feel what it was like to be on stage, because ultimately I had deep down dreams of wanting to be in Cirque du Soleil, and I wanted to be like an actual performer, and I thought that stripping would be a great outlet to start my journey. And so I went straight from the Tilt-A-Kilt to La Boheme. And yes, it was fun, but there's definitely a lot of the industry that people don't talk about. And it is definitely more scary and intimidating than anything, especially when you're a baby dancer and you don't know anyone and you don't know what to do. So yeah, I started doing the stripping thing from there.
They ask, or they say, I know y'all make bank, so I'm just curious.
So money is a very interesting topic when it comes to the industry, because yes, you do make money, but you also spend a lot of money as well. So a lot of the times the way it works is you have to spend money in rent, fees, buying shoes, buying clothes, makeup, all those things, and it does add up over time. So yes, you do make money, but you also have to take into account that it is an initial investment, and you should be taking stripping seriously in terms of treating it like it's a business. So when you're starting a business, you have to start investing. When you're investing in your stripping career, right, it's probably going to be some money at first. And then another thing too is, usually for baby dancers, you don't really make a ton of money in the beginning, because you're still figuring out your business, you're still figuring out your hustle, and you're really learning how to make money, right? So it does take time. And another thing I want to talk about is that yes, it's good money when it is good money, but when it's bad money, it's bad money. You know, there's definitely times where I would leave the club with $0, $5 even, and you know, every dancer can relate that there's just definitely days where there's nothing you can do and you won't make money. So I like to, you know, set the record straight that sure, strippers have the chance to make a lot of money, but at the same time, we do struggle just as much as anyone else working a 9 to 5.
I'm curious too, on my own end, would you say that it's pretty close to like serving money-wise, of like some days you can be making a lot of money and other days you can be leaving with like less money than you walked in with?
Totally, yeah, totally, 100%. And yeah, so I was serving, you know, since I was 16. And yeah, it's very, very similar too, especially when you're dealing with cash, mostly cash transactions too. It's like you could even lose money, like actually lose it like out of your bag, you know, it's like not very secure. You have money stolen from you. But overall, the whole general idea of some days are better than others in terms of the restaurant industry and the stripping industry, it's actually very, very similar, you know, because you can't really determine, you know, the flow of traffic.
This next person asks, how do you get over performance fear?
So genuinely, I think it's just gonna happen over time. And I do think practicing helps a lot. Obviously, pole studios can help with that too. Just getting over being in front of someone and even practicing at your house or, like I said, like in a dance studio in front of a camera can really help. But over time, you'll just start to get used to being comfortable with your body and being comfortable with how people perceive you. And over time is just the best answer with practice.
I want to get into professional doming, but I have no idea where to start.
Okay, yeah, totally. So that's a very taboo part of the industry. So honestly, I think your best bet is to go on some dom-friendly sites. So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head the websites, but I'm sure we could list them below. But some of them are called like findom.com, paypig.com, something like that. And there's definitely clientele for that too. And then even if you wanted to start like an OnlyFans and list that like in your description, saying like, well, I'm the dominant type, like I like degrading people, whatever. I think like listing that and mentioning that online is gonna be your best bet. And I do think that there's a bigger dom community online than there is like in person and in the clubs, because typically for clientele of doms, they like to be more anonymous. You know, they're very secretive, so online is probably gonna be your best bet.
If your significant other didn't support it, would you still do it?
Yeah, I think you should break up with whoever your significant other. Just because if they're not willing to support you with that, how are they ever going to be willing to support you in anything? Yeah, and it does get difficult. Relationships in the industry can get difficult, but it is possible. And I would know my significant other is 100% supportive of me. So definitely don't settle, because if it's something that you want to do, you don't want to be held back in life, make sure you're with someone that's going to support you.
I completely agree with that. Was it hard telling people that you did pole, and for this one, hard telling people that you stripped at the start? Did people try to shame you?
110%. So that's another thing about the industry and even pole dancing, but most of all, like entering the sex work industry, is that you will lose friends, you'll lose respect. For me, I lost family members, you know, and it's definitely a stigma that's not very positive. And my goal with the studio and my goal just in general is to get rid of that stigma and just prove that sex work is real work and we're all still humans, and that the stigma was created in a negative light and it shouldn't be anymore. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind if you're looking to become a stripper or enter the sex work industry, that things will change, you change.
So cute, I can't handle
I told you he's a ladies' man.
He is. You're
He's
flirting with me.
I told you he's flirting.
Any good tips for learning how to walk in those death heels?
Genuinely, the best advice I can give you is you want to shift all your weight to the tips of your toes. So there's a reason why the tops are so big over here and why there's a small angle right here, is because you should be able to always be leaning right here at the top. Typically when people fall, it's because they're leaning back and they're leaning right here. So this whole area is set up so that you can lean forward and balance yourself. Point your toes.
Yes, so
that will help.
Your toes. Let's see, can you tell us your best and worst experience on the pole so far? When you're dancing at a club, or best.
So for the club?
Yeah.
Okay. I pulled into the club, but I also hula hoop, so that was kind of like my name to fame, was hula hooping on stage. And I think one of my favorite experiences was pretty much all the times that I've hooped on stage. That's just gotta be my hands down favorite. But I just enjoy like seeing people smile. I don't have like a specific experience that comes to mind, just because I mean, there's just too many for me to talk about, honestly. But overall, just I'll never forget like the smiles that I've been able to put on people's faces, and like even some laughs, and even, you know, I've brought people together like through my stage sets, and it's just like really sweet. And I absolutely I love seeing people smile, like men, women, like non-binaries. It doesn't matter who you are. Like I just love like putting a smile on people's faces just off of doing like little performance tricks, you know?
You like entertaining people.
Yeah. And it's nice because just kind of like when you're scrolling through TikTok or watching TV, and you know, and you kind of just zone out and you forget about the world and you forget about your problems and all you can really think about is like that TV show or the video you're watching. I really like bringing that to my performance. Like I like knowing that my audience can just kind of zone out for however long I'm on stage and just know that they don't have to think about their problems for that few minutes of their life and they can just zone out and watch me, and that's like a really amazing feeling. Yeah.
What's the worst part?
Genuinely, I think the worst part about the industry and just numerous experiences that I've had is the sexual harassment. It's very, very apparent in the club, and it will most likely happen to you. And I've definitely created lots of PTSD and trauma over the years from certain experiences that were out of my control. You know, like inappropriate flashing, grabbing, name calling, you know, having money stolen from me or being scammed, stuff like that, like has definitely took a toll on my mind and my body. So yeah, so that's my least favorite part about everything is just, you know, like the harassment and all the little things that tend to add up over the years. But there is a way to regulate it. And we can regulate that by getting rid of the negative stigma of strippers and spreading awareness about dancers, is because a lot of the time, you know, with these clientele that tend to be grabby or rude or even, you know, some cases can be very extreme, like, you know, in terms of even rape even, is by changing that stigma and letting people know that sex work is real work, it is a job, and we are real human beings and we deserve rights as well as respect. And I think that over the years I am seeing a change in clientele of saying like, oh, okay, like I understand that this is a job and I respect you as a job, same way as I respect, right, like a hairdresser, right? It's like, okay, like this is what you do, you cut hair, right? And I respect you as a hairdresser. I'm not gonna say like, oh, you're my hairdresser, you know, you only do my hair. It's like, she's doing this for money. And yeah, and I think too, like spreading awareness in terms of the clubs itself, you know, like upping security and always making sure that women, men, non-binary, etc., are safe mentally and physically. So like I said, you know, having bouncers really aware, and two, like I want to give a shout out to house moms. Not a lot of people talk about house moms, but house moms are there to make sure that you're okay mentally, because it's a very mentally draining job. And that's their job too, is to make sure that all the girls are safe mentally. You know, if I'm having like a hard time, I know I can sit upstairs in the dressing room and I can talk to house mom and she can just kind of, you know, let me know everything's okay, maybe give me a snack, give me some water, and just help me get through the night, because we could take all the support we can get from everyone.
For those of us who don't know, what's a house mom?
Oh, a house mom is typically someone who works in the dressing room and provides snacks, emotional support, tampons, pads, hairspray, and just kind of like monitors the locker room, makes sure that everyone's okay. So house moms do live off of tips as well as strippers do. So at the end of the night, I would usually tip my house mom 20% or 30% of what I make that night, and I'll usually have like a cup of soup or something at the end of the night, and it definitely is really helpful.
Not asking to be crude, it's a fear of mine that would prevent me from wearing lingerie like yours. I did burlesque years ago, and I had to double layer everything to ensure everything stayed where I wanted it to. How do you keep your lingerie in place while moving and stop things from popping out?
So depending on the state, typically you're legally required to wear 2 pairs of underwear, 2 pairs of thongs. Yeah, so even if you're auditioning, you want to come with 2 pairs of underwear, because it is a legal requirement. So that does help avoid your bottom area popping out. In terms of lingerie, the stuff that I wear at the club as opposed to what I'd wear for like a burlesque performance, because I am involved in burlesque as well, is that less is more. So, you know, things like bikinis as opposed to like the strappy stuff is definitely highly encouraged, just because it's less maintenance. But for my burlesque outfits, you know, I'm strapped up. I got like diamonds, like the feathers, everything. But yeah, for the club, I typically just like to wear like a bikini just because it makes it easier. So yeah, I would just recommend less is more.
Yeah, I didn't know about the law. What's one assumption about sex work that you hate?
My least favorite assumption about sex work is that it's easy, because it's not for everybody. It's not an easy job. As with anything, I don't think anything is an easy job, and I think anything that gives you the opportunity for it to be a lot of money is not an easy job. I don't believe in easy money, and I think especially with stripping, it is a huge mental and physical toll. So I think just getting rid of the notion, college, I'm just gonna drop out and be a stripper, is like a really annoying notion, just because, yeah, it is really, really hard.
I like this one. Who are some of your pole idols?
Off of the top of my head, I guess for pole specifically, my favorite pole idols would probably be Maddie Sparkle Dancer on Instagram. I've followed her for years, and she has a beautiful performance technique, and I do love her pole work. That's like for famous people that I don't know, and I would love to have her come here. Like, that would be a huge dream of mine to have her perform here, because she's absolutely amazing. I think Spinning Shay is also one of my favorites. Yeah, so she's obviously sex worker friendly, and she has come here before to Expression Studio.
She has? I didn't know that.
I know. Yes. Oh, she does do workshops here, so keep that in mind. But she's also one of my favorites. Absolutely love the flexibility and the technique that she has.
She's not based in Denver.
No, but she travels, travel dances, and travel workshops, I guess you could say. And then for people that I know personally that are like just my pole besties, I think my friend Nessa was my really big inspiration for the pole specifically. I just remember like when I was a baby dancer and I saw her working the pole, and she was just so amazing. And she was instructing here. She did move to Texas, but I want to give a shout out to her. And then my friend Elena, she's a fucking big deal, honestly, because she's just an alien. She's just a pole alien. That's what I call her. She's just crazy. Like, I don't even understand. Like, she's just like one of my best friends, and she's just crazy on the pole. Like, I've never seen anyone like work the pole she does. Like, there's a reason why they called her Queen of the Pole at the club for years, just because she's an alien. Like, I don't know how she does what she does, but she does it, and it's amazing. I obviously, a big shout out to Olivia. Like, she was like a really big impact in the beginning of like my pole journey. It was like she was like way more ahead of me in pole, and it was like just starting, and she taught me like how to do like a basic carousel spin and like a little ballerina, and I like couldn't do it. But we were just practicing at your house.
I remember you picked it up so quickly.
Really? I was like, I feel like it's embarrassing.
Yeah, and that was before I was even teaching. So like, I didn't even like know properly how to teach, and like you picked it up so quickly. And then in return, you taught me how to do a lot of your hooping things.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I remember enjoying that day a lot, because that was right before I moved here.
Yeah, that was like the last time I seen you.
Yeah, for like 4 years. Yeah, that was a really long time. I just remember that, and that was a really good day.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, we got to like share each other's passions with each other, or share our passions with each other.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy too over the years, like how much I've seen the pole community and the hoop community start to merge. It's like insane. Yes, it's insane. And I'm like thinking in my head, my ego was like, well, I was doing that years ago.
Right, yeah,
you know what I mean? It's really cool to see the two worlds collide. Just a little backstory. It's like I hadn't seen her for 4 years, and she had came to the studio because she was like, I'm in Colorado. I was like, we need to hang out. And she came into the studio, and I just started bawling.
Yeah.
I just started crying.
It's so good to see you again.
Oh.
Like, look at my butt.
Yes, this is
With my
some
butt
puppy
on the
butt.
microphone.
Some puppy butt. I started bawling my eyes out just because I hadn't seen her, and I couldn't hold back the tears. I was like, it's been so long, and I just started crying.
It's so good to see you again.
For sure.
And it was just cool to just like I said, like when I walked in, I was like, you fucking built this. Do you ever get uncomfortable telling people what you do for work?
100%. Like, I don't tell people typically, and I've felt more comfortable over the years with it. But overall, yeah, it's like definitely taboo. I think the reason why that song started trending on TikTok too is like, I'm an accountant, an accountant, is because it's so true. Like, I could never tell anyone like what I do, like to family members or even, to like people, just honestly random people ask me too. It's like even at like the grocery store, it's like, oh, what do you do for work? And it's like, wait, what? It's very weird, and it's really uncomfortable, and you gotta keep in mind that a lot of the times it can be a safety thing. So you do have to lie, and you do have to lie to your Uber too. If you're in an Uber, you really shouldn't be telling the truth in that case, because it can get very dangerous. So I usually say I'm an accountant, or as of lately, it's been nice. I can say that I'm a business owner too, and that I own a dance studio, and that kind of helps keep me safe.
What constitutes as sex work?
So sex work definitely ranges from anything to having a guy pay for your dinner, to OnlyFans, to stripping, to full prostitution.
Wait, I'm sorry. Why does having a guy pay for your dinner constitute that?
Because it's a form of it's a form of like sugar daddy. Like a lot of people have participated in sex work and haven't even realized it. You know what I mean? But
that is fascinating.
It's just in terms of, you are selling part of your assets to get something that you want. So even if it's something as little as, getting drinks at the bar, or getting dinner, giving someone your phone number, right, to get something, I think I would definitely, constitute that as sex work, because you're selling yourself, right? You're selling an asset to get what you want. And whatever that ranges to, you're still doing what we do, right? As a sex worker, you're still participating in that action. So overall, I would say, like 85% of the population has probably participated in sex work.
Wow, that's actually a really interesting perspective. I like that definition, actually, because it's true. You're trading one thing to get something else.
Yeah.
Whether that be money or your assets.
Totally. And even too, like having a like as a model, like even having a photographer pay to do your shoot, you know what I mean? Charging your shoot rate, right? That's still, I would still consider that sex work. And the term sex work is a very intense name, because like people automatically think like, oh, sex, sex, like, but it's like overall, it's more so sex in the term of just assets. I think assets like a good way to put it. Like it's like asset work. In order to get what you want, you're providing some type of service, right? Whether it be even mild flirting, or full-on prostitution, or even being a porn star, OnlyFans, stuff like that.
I've even heard of girlfriends for hire, right?
Totally, 100%.
Anything physically, but you are posing as somebody's girlfriend. Or, I mean, I don't know if they have boyfriend version of that. I'm sure they do. But
girlfund.com. Totally.
Oh, do they really?
That's what it's called. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, and so, I mean, what you're describing, that would be considered sex work.
Totally. Yeah, even like the texting thing, like some people pay to text. Phone operating. Yeah, and too, like sex work doesn't always have to be sexual. That's the reality of it. It's like, it's intimacy. So true. Yeah. So, like I said, sex work is like very intense word. But overall, it's just that interaction and that connection that people are mostly like looking for in that exchange.
How has sex work affected your body image? What are some positives and negatives?
I think that body dysmorphia is a reoccurring mental condition that happens within sex work, and I want to emphasize the strip club for that, especially because you could be the prettiest in the club and you will feel like you're not good enough, like, okay, I just got a pair of fake boobs and now like they need to be bigger, or now they need to be smaller. Oh my gosh, my ass needs to be bigger, now my ass needs to get smaller, etc. And just really looking at your body like, oh my gosh, like something needs to change, and that was like my biggest struggle for dancing too, is just because, like everyone in the population, I've struggled with my body a lot, and overall, I do feel like if I don't make the money that I want in a night at the club, it's like I'll be like, oh, I would have made money if I had a BBL, or I would have made money if I had the lip injections that I wanted, and it's a mental torpedo, and it's hard to not feel that way on top of how we were already conditioned in this society to feel that way from the beginning, and then being in a sexually charged, superficial, materialistic world, which is the stripping world. Honestly, like it's hard to not feel like you're good enough, what I mean? So that's why the job isn't for everyone, because you can't be weak, honestly. And I was very weak when I first started, and it did knock me down. And overall, I got stronger, which is also a great attribute of dancing, is I did gain a lot of confidence in myself. And I'm like, oh, wow, I am that bitch, you know, like, wow, I do love certain parts of my body. But overall, yes, you know, it does make it difficult to be in the industry and not feel like your body isn't good enough, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I mean, a lot is an understatement. There are a plethora of questions about bigger girls who aren't the standard quote unquote skinny. Do you and a lot of them are, can I do pole dancing? Can I do stripping?
Right now, I think that there's actually more of an advantage for the thicker and bigger girls. I think because of like idols like Cardi B and like Megan Thee Stallion and stuff, I think that the stigma has shifted. So like before it was like you had to be really skinny, like no tattoos in the club. But now it's kind of the opposite. I think that you know, people are looking more for like the thicker, like bigger girls. But overall, like the stigma still stands in the sense that, okay, now you're too skinny. Now you're bones, you're skin and bones, like get an ass, right? And it's so frustrating in the industry, you know, because it's like I said, like it's almost like you could never be good enough, you know. And it's like when I started getting really, really skinny before the pandemic, like really, really skinny for, well, I don't know, whatever reason, I started getting really skinny, and I had, you know, customers tell me, they're like, well, you were perfect when you started dancing and now you're just skin and bones. I started developing like an eating disorder over it. It's like, and it was opposite eating disorder from anorexia. It was like I started eating and eating and eating and eating because I was like, I need to get an ass, I need to get an ass, like I need to get boobs, I need to get titties, whatever, you know. And it's like, goes both ways, you know. It goes both ways for the girls that are too skinny and the girls that are too big, and overall you could never win. You know. And like I started, like I was like, God, I'm so skinny, you know, yada yada. And then I started gaining weight, and then everyone's like, oh, I see that you started gaining weight over quarantine. And you know, it's like, oh, do you want to get a gym membership and stuff like that? Yeah. So it was like,
People said that to you?
yes, 100%. Yeah, that happened over the past year for sure. It was like I did gain weight over quarantine, which is what I wanted. And then after that, it was like everyone was like, oh, like I see that you can't fit in that anymore. And you know, it was also just like the microaggressions too. So
yeah, there's I don't know where I saw this, but it was kind of like women's bodies shouldn't be a fashion trend.
it's so different everywhere you go to. Like for example, like I could never work in Atlanta. I could never work in Atlanta because I do not got the booty for that. You know what I mean? Because they want like the bigger girls. You know what I mean? So it's like I could never work in Arizona or Atlanta because I'm not big enough. And then vice versa, it's like, oh, an Atlanta girl will be like, I could never dance in Denver because it's like we're typically more skinnier because we're also like a skinny state, right? So it's like it's harder for them to get a job out here. You know what I mean? So it's just, you can't win. Yeah.
It's frustrating. Like say somebody from Atlanta is like, I love Denver and I love stripping.
Yeah.
But it would almost be in that case you would have to choose one.
Yeah. You would 100% because yeah, all the states are totally different. And then for example, you know, if you're dancing in Oregon, they want tattoos, they want piercings.
True.
You know what I mean? They want the alternative girls. And then it's like you go to Miami and it's like they don't really favor like the tatted girls. They want more of like, you know, like the big booties, like the plastic surgery look and stuff. Yeah, so it's
almost
kind of
like
tough.
The aesthetic is
Yes.
very different.
Yeah.
Okay.
The aesthetic is definitely different. So
That's something I'd never even thought about. Those are all the questions. Yeah.
So thanks for all the questions, guys. And you can find me at my Instagram, maybe even my OnlyFans, or my YouTube, my TikTok. But overall, I am here in Denver at Expression Studio. And you can also find all of those links on my pages. And if you're ever in Denver, I'd love it if you could stop by, and I'd love to answer any questions that you have. I do sell stripper courses as well if you're looking to do some one-on-one with your questions or things that you need help with personally. And then of course I do private lessons here in terms of dancing, and if you ever want to become a stripper, we can customize that too. Reach out to me. I'd love to know everything about you, and I'd love to answer all your questions. But yeah, have a good day. It was good? Okay.
On your parade, shine, you can't chase, yeah. If I was Father Time, then I would change the day. So I never saw your face.